The second on point is on how India nailed Trump advisor Peter Navarro's lies. And let's take a quick look at the headlines. Prime Minister Modi launches metro line in Kolkata, targets Mamta at mega rally, says centre's funds don't reach beneficiaries in Kolkata because of TMC corruption. Home Minister Amit Shah defends criminal neta bill, says Kejriwal was running government even after going to jail. Chinnaswamy Stadium stampede cost Bengaluru ICC Women's World Cup Games. ICC shifts opening match to Guwahati. SC asked EC to accept Aadhaar as proof for inclusion in electoral roll. Directs political parties to assist voters to file claims in Bihar. Just 2 days after CM Rekha Gupta man creates ruckus at her public event, police whisk away troublemaker. Meghalaya police to file charge sheet in Raja Raghuvanshi murder by August end. FBI raids ex-Trump aide John Bolton's home days after his criticism of tariffs on India. Kash Patel says nobody is above law. Allies working to make security guarantees for Ukraine robust, says NATO chief Mark Rutte. Former Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe arrested over alleged misuse of government funds. A three-member Supreme Court bench headed by Justice Vikram Nath has stayed its August 11th order directing the Delhi government to permanently relocate stray dogs from streets to dog shelters in Delhi-NCR. The modified order was received with relief by both the parties as it reconciled the differences, created a workable ground for execution of a policy that now has national significance. Let's look at the 11 big takeaways from new SC ruling on stray dogs. 1. Release after sterilization and immunization. 2nd, exception for rabid or aggressive dogs. 3rd, dog shelters to be equipped with CCTV. 4th, adequate staff, food and medical care at shelter. No public feeding allowed. Designated local feeding zones. Violators to be fined, booked for contempt of court. Adoption allowed through MCD. Nationwide policy under consideration. Helpline to report dog bites. Similar cases pending before High Court transferred to Supreme Court. These were the salient features of the order. But the question is how practical and if the verdict the ground.
ये जो अभी सुओ मोटो की जजमेंट है वो अभी के लिए अबेंस में रख दी है. But not all, see, what they have very balanced, in a very balanced manner, they have said जो aggressive dogs हैं, जो बाकी जो regular dogs हैं, उनकी sterilization होनी चाहिए, जो aggressive dogs हैं, उनको ponds में लेके जाना चाहिए. वहाँ पे हमें थोड़ी सी तकलीफ होने वाली है, because वो लोग कैसे identify करेंगे? MCD तो सारों को ही उठा के ले जाएगी. सारे बच्चों को उठा के लेके जाएगी. तो दैट वी हैव टू, आई थिंक एज डॉग लवर्स वी नीड टू टेक केयर ऑफ दैट, यू नो. तो वो थोड़ा सा हल्की सी मुझे वाज नॉट वेरी हैप्पी विद दैट पोर्शन ऑफ द ऑर्डर. बट अदरवाइज जो रेबीड डॉग्स हैं, अग्रेसिव डॉग्स हैं, अकॉर्डिंग टू देम दे विल टेक टू द पॉन्ड्स.
बहुत बड़ा रिलीफ, बहुत बड़ा रिलीफ, बहुत बड़ा रिलीफ, बहुत बड़ा, मतलब हम एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर सकते. 10-11 दिन से हम लोग किस ट्रॉमा में जिए, कैसे जिए, कुछ नहीं पता. सिर्फ रोए नहीं सोए. ये मतलब हमारी क्या जीत है, ये तो सत्य की जीत है. ये बच्चों के साथ न्याय कैसे हो सकता था, आप भी समझ सकते कैसे हो सकता था.
मेरे अकॉर्डिंग पब्लिक फीडिंग कराने में मानता हूं मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ये डिसीजन जो है बिल्कुल ठीक है. बट लेकिन मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है सबसे कि भी हम उनको खाना खिलाना ना छोड़े, क्योंकि ये हमारे इंडिया की संस्कृति है, हमारे भारतवर्ष की संस्कृति है. पहली रोटी गाय की, आखिरी रोटी कुत्ते की.
बहुत
look at what has changed in the two orders. Before that, the order said round up houses, basically house all stray dogs. In shelters, no release. Now, release non-rabid stray back to original location after sterilization. Before this, strays to be provided food at shelter, not starved. Now, MCD will be designated feeding grounds. MCD will decide areas, no individualized feeding. Before this, Delhi government, MCD, NDMC should create dog shelters within 8 weeks. Now, adoption possible via MCD, no adopted dog to be returned to street. Before this, Delhi-NCR specific order. Now, SC order expanded nationwide. Now let me play out the reaction of renowned animal rights activist and former Union Minister Maneka Gandhi on the revised ruling.
Question of it, a rabid dog has to be picked up and it cannot be raised. In any case, rabies is a time-bound disease that kills the dog. So the dog will die. And regarding aggressive dogs, of course they have to be sterilized. But we have to now ask the Supreme Court to make a definition of what is aggressive. Because it becomes, most RWAs and municipalities are very self-serving. A politician will interfere in order to get votes and he will say, oh, all the dogs should be removed because they're aggressive. Some people say dogs that sit on scooters are aggressive. Some people say that dogs that chase cars are aggressive. There doesn't seem to be one definition. So the word definition will have to be clarified. Does it happen with one bite? Does it happen with many bites? Does it happen with no bites at all? You know, for instance, a dog that gives birth. Hopefully there will be less and less, but a dog that gives birth, when she's sitting with her puppies, if you come and throw water at her or hit her with stones, would you blame her for being aggressive? So we have to decide what is aggression.
Now, the ruling also said that any dog lover or NGO which has approached Supreme Court to intervene in the matter should deposit 25,000 and 2 lakhs with the court respectively for their plea to be heard. Action will be taken against persons found to be feeding dogs on streets. Now, is this feasible in terms of implementation? Earlier, the 2-judge bench had taken suo motu cognizance of rising dog bites and rabies deaths, especially in Delhi-NCR. Does the new ruling ensure strong measures to counter this? Now, let us look at the dog bite numbers. India has the world's largest stray dog population, 1.53 crore stray dogs across country, 37 lakh dog bites, cases reported in 2024, 3 lakh bites recorded in January 2025, 4.3, not 3, 4.3 lakh dog bites. So can local civic bodies across India implement the directive properly? The court hasn't defined aggressive dogs. Does this leave scope for interpretation by civic bodies? Do we have adequate infrastructure to vaccinate, sterilize 1.35 crore stray dogs? So these are the issues which we'll discuss. I'm joined by Rekha Agarwal, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, Anirudh Ravindra, animal activist and co-founder, Pran Animal Foundation, Ashina Savarkar, Amit Gupta, Vinita Kaul. Now let me straight away go to Vinita Kaul. Your opening, Vinita Kaul will also join me. Let me straight away go to Anirudh Ravindra first. Your opening comments.
So it's a very historic day for animals for that matter, not just with regards to stray dogs, but with the animals, because India has been very compassionate with the SC order and taking forward the implementation. It all depends upon the civic body. So civic body should actually make sense now, and they have to, be corrupt free to take it forward and implement the ABC rules and regulations. That is what we suggest from the animal welfare side.
Okay. Ashina Savarkar, your opening comments?
Yeah, so I would actually like to congratulate each and everyone here. This is a big win for our country. It's now actually a global news and everyone is celebrating the fact that Supreme Court has actually given us something very fruitful for entire animal and human race. So yes, coexistence won, because it have been written in our scriptures as well that coexistence matters a lot, and yes, Honorable Supreme Court has done it really well and everyone is applauding it.
Okay, Mr. Gupta, your opening comments on the verdict of the Supreme Court?
Supreme Court has taken our point regarding the aggressive dogs and the feeding at the designated point. We need more clarity, or we need to fix the accountability of the local administrations authorities so that the ABC rules get followed properly. And in case they fail to implement the ABC rule, there should be contempt proceeding against them and they should be prosecuted. Along with that, the person who are feeding at non-designated places should be punishable as per the Supreme Court order.
Okay. Now, let me go across to Rekha Agarwal. Madam, my question to you is, how do you look at this order in terms of execution? You know, some people are happy, some people are unhappy, some can say it's a glass half full, some can say it's half empty. But in terms of execution, is there a challenge or not, madam?
There's going to be a very big challenge as to how do you identify this judgment. Of course, I mean, first of all, I would not like to be pessimistic. I'm glad a judgment like this has come and the courts have realized that banning anything is not the correct way forward. There has to be a middle path. The fundamental rights of human beings are there, but at the same time, even animals have their rights. And in fact, we have a law way back in 1960 which talks about animal rights. And in fact, the Constitution itself provides about the fundamental rights of animals also, that they have a right to being protected and nobody can be cruel towards them. So once the laws themselves are there in place, the implementation has not been there. That is why such a situation has come where the matter has reached the court. Having said that, I'm glad that this judgment is trying to find a way forward. The middle path has to be there. Checks and balances have to be there. And as the earlier speaker said, to be our country itself talks about coexistence. So we have to find a harmonious way of living together with nature. We can't cut off all the trees. We can't ban all vehicles. We can't ban all animals and let only human beings live. That cannot be possible. So now talking about the challenges that you're asking about, yes, certainly implementing the challenges are going to be very, very difficult because as Mrs. Menaka Gandhi also said that how do you identify what is an aggressive dog? There is no parameter. Is there any expert body which is going to do a psychological test on the dog to come to the conclusion that yes, this dog is not a friendly dog, or this dog is an aggressive dog, because the aggression can come from time to time and it can speed up because of certain aggressive behavior by human beings towards the animals. And then again talking about the rabies, that the dogs which are vaccinated and sterilized,
okay,
they are going to be released. Now again, that is going to be very, very difficult. I think the civic bodies will have to kind of make a complete muster roll of the entire dog population in every colony, which is going to be a very difficult task.
But, madam, I think that it might be a full-time job for the civic bodies. It's not a small thing. It might end up being a full-time job.
Just as it's a very difficult for population check. Just as we have a census of human beings, are we going to have a census of the dogs? And the way the dogs multiply, once a female dog is giving birth, how many children, how many puppies are going to be born?
Obviously, it's a litter. Absolutely, you are. It's very difficult.
The dogs may die. Puppies die. And again about the feeding ground, that designated feeding ground. That is again going to be a very difficult thing to implement, because most people, just out of their friendly nature, most housewives or young boys and girls, they kind of adopt a dog in the colony.
I have a different position, Rekha. I have a different position. The police here acquires a role. Suppose there is a complaint that people are feeding dogs, you don't have a CCTV footage, then it becomes us versus them. I am also joined by Vinita. Is my voice audible?
Yes. Am I audible?
You are audible. So what do you have to say at the verdict about the feeding grounds and the sort of organizing activity that has been given to MCD and local bodies? Is it really workable?
I don't think it is workable, because earlier also it was given to them, and if you see the statistics, they are not fed properly. They are fed inside the community, they are fed anywhere, and they do get wild because there are a lot of passengers traveling and vehicles traveling, so there are a lot of dog bites also happening. So it's I'm happy with the SC ruling, but then who's going to make sure that what they are saying is going to be implemented and executed? Because we are already fighting with few other civic issues which are still not addressed.
Absolutely. So, Ashina, how are these issues going to be addressed? Dogs are territorial one. Dogs identify their patrons. Dogs identify the other dogs in the different groups. There is a area domination which happens, and dogs in fact become aggressive with other dogs and the people they don't identify. It's like a pack. A newcomer will always be suspect by the dogs who are already there. So a judicial verdict cannot modify an animal behavior.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But the fact Supreme Court has ordered upon is that the dog needs to be sterilized and relocated to its original, the land, the territory they are living. And absolutely, this will definitely work for every animal out there, because once they are into their territory, the cruelty cases or any the dog bite cases will not be increasing day to day or month on month. And considering again the designated whichever food places there are to be done, so definitely this will take time, but yes, with time this will be hopefully working wonders and miracles for the things to be done.
But then, Anirudh, who decides that who has actually violated the rule? Because, you're not supposed to do this, you are supposed to do this. Do you think that, ultimately they can end up being matters in police stations, There can be litigation on it. For example, I have a park, I go for a walk, there are people, kuch log chiti ko dana khilate hain, kuch they'll feed a biscuit to a puppy, sometimes, they'll come and feed. I have seen people every day, they're feeding, they're giving milk to the dogs, and once the dogs are satiated, they go off to sleep. So, someone can actually report this. Go to the police station.
No, definitely. What you said is right, because the Supreme Court hasn't defined what is public place feeding. And the second thing is they haven't defined the aggressive dogs. So both of these things are in a very gray area right now. But with regards to feeding, what happens when you're walking, you might just throw a biscuit and, dog might come and eat that. So you can't call that a feeding. Feeding is, it is defined. Giving them pedigree or giving them their food, chicken rice, egg rice, or the curd rice, whatever the people are feeding it to them. So we have to define this properly. And AWBI has already done it to one level. That is, Animal Welfare Board of India has already done it to one level. I think, like in the coming days, I think we have to define about the aggressive dogs also. And regarding the animal birth control program, there should be a monitoring committee in each and every municipality. So that is very much important, so that the organ counting, or if the ABC is being done properly, this should be done corrupt free, so that we will have the numbers decreased within 5 years of time. I think we are going to decrease to 30% of the dog population will decrease. If we do it properly, if there is a monitoring committee and a neutral monitoring committee, not just animal lovers or not with people who don't like animals. It is not about that. A neutral monitoring committee which submits the report quarterly. That is very important. So once they submit the report, you will have the data, we will have the number of dogs, and it is much better to take it forward.
Amit, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, okay.
Amit, your thoughts on it?
See, if we go through the AWBI rules, it's clearly defined what is a feeding point and what is not. The rules clearly mentions, we have pasted these stickers across our society as well, that you cannot feed a dog on a walkway, on a pedestrian way, on an entry exit, in a kids area, in a basement, in a lift area. So the definition of feeding point is clearly defined, and you can refer that. Now what we say is, when someone going and throw a biscuit, you cannot define it as a feeding, but there are many NGOs who daily feed their dogs, and in example in our area they feed 10-15 dogs. A rickshaw comes and they feed all 10-15 dogs on the walkway, on the pedestrian walkway where people walk, and you cannot pass by that time because the dogs are insecure about their food. When they are having a meal, if you pass through, they will feel like that someone is going to take their feed, so they'll be aggressive. So that has to be done. Another point that we all are missing, which AWBA has clearly mentioned, there is a dog welfare committee, which has to include the member of local administration, police, RW or AO representative, and the dog feeder or the dog lover. So that committee can be found in our society case. There is a clear order from the AWBI to form a committee. If you form a committee, I'm sure 70 to 80% issues can be resolved amicably without any problem or without involving any legal troubles. That can be done. The third point, when, as I mentioned in the morning in the previous debate as well, the dog feeders, I don't call them an animal activist because the animal includes the cow, bulls, etc., and they don't talk about that. The dog feeders or dog lovers should not limit themselves to feeding only. They should take charge of the sterilization and yearly vaccination. We have done in our sector. So it can be easily done, that can be done, and not difficult thing. So all the 3 points are there. If you go through the AWVI rules, AWVI guidelines, it's clearly mentioned about each and everything. And most of us don't talk about that.
Okay, Ashina, that's an interesting point. Isn't it the responsibility of the dog lovers to contribute in this entire process of sterilization, cordoning off those who are aggressive?
So yes, coming up to the point that each and every dog lover definitely doesn't go for the sterilization, rather they keep rescuing animals. But now, because Honorable Supreme Court has given this, that every dog lover or animal lover or rights activist is ready to cooperate and support the government in sterilizing the dogs, in helping them with the post-operative care. Even if I talk about the local authorities or the local shelters, they were there to protest about the things, and now because it's a big win for every one of us, so every one of them, every single person of them is ready to help the central government, to help the state governments, to help the local NGO shelters, because the only thing is, because it's actually scientific that sterilization and vaccination programs, if we talk about it, it will reduce the aggression and control the population as well. So yes, everyone including me are ready for the same.
But do you think it's really possible? The sterilization program requires an entire chain of machinery, a place, medicine, doctors. It's just not a thing, it requires a battery of things.
Absolutely. It requires a lot of manpower, a lot of patience and everything to, get it done, because they are voiceless, and to understand the voiceless, to, help on it is actually a big deal. And this will definitely come up steadily, slowly, but not all of a sudden. This will definitely take time. And yes, we have to unite. All animal lovers, including the activists, have to reunite against this and actively work with the central government to plan out the designated areas of food, the sterilization, the post-operative care, also the relocation of the dog. Where the dog was picked up, he or she needs to be relocated there to avoid any further escalations regarding this.
But there is also one more thing. A lot of people don't understand that with change in circumstances, the dog can also do pack hunting like wild animals. Vinita, if you look at these visuals, it's pretty scientific. These are not individual dogs. This is pack hunting. This is not something which law can control. And this is like basic natural instinct. You go to Srinagar, you will not find single dog. You'll find a huge group of dogs, 20, 25. It doesn't change like that. It becomes very difficult. You try taking out one dog from the pack, other 22 will start attacking you. I remember there is a pack of 3 dogs in front of my house in a garden. A dog was hurt. So someone came from the NGO, they tried to help the dog. Other 2 dogs attacked the guy, could not take him to the shelter till someone who was feeding the dog came and actually pacified the other 2 dogs. So it's not as clinical as it sounds. It's really tough. I've seen it myself.
Yeah, so we have a community where we are struggling with a pack of 20 to 25 dogs, and I would like to bring in back that topic where if they are sterilized, then they need to be you don't need to relocate them, you get them back to the place. Who identifies whether in the first place they were relocated or not? Because with our community there were dogs who were relocated.
Okay, and was it successful?
So when we say that, yes. It has been going on for years now, and we have been struggling. We are dog lovers. We are not, animal haters. But it has to be like coexistence, right? Human and animal have to coexist. And a dog, the character of a dog is an animal. So anytime, even if you feed them, they do get aggressive.
Ashna, You wanted to comment?
Coming up to Vinita's point, actually, yes, they are, they are born and brought up to be a pack hunting, because dog again is a social animal. It has been since 5,000 plus years. But considering the fact that they like social gathering, but that doesn't mean actually you need to be clear enough to be inclined towards animal nature to understand. Because again, if a human is nabbing another human, there are times when there's a groupism and everyone gets to that particular human. So this is again a dog mentality and nature, but one needs to understand, and this will come with time gradually, because now every other human will have to understand what kind of behavior he's having. Definitely, yes, out of 10 dogs, there might be 2 dogs who will be aggressive by nature, but yet not every dog is again the same path.
Okay, now coming back to the moot point, Rekha, my question here is that yes, everything can be organized around the dogs, but then there is also an issue of strays in this country. Everyone understands that feeding stray is part of the cultural rhythm. Some will feed on a religious occasion, they'll find a cow. Someone will try to find a dog. There are multiple issues. So, the feeding of a dog is not only about a dog lover. It has a cultural connotation. It's like you feed a pigeon. It became an issue in Mumbai. You must have read that. You feed crows. What do you do then, when this religious aspect in the feeding mixes? You getting my point?
I do get your point, and I appreciate, what is going on in your mind. In fact, in our country where religion, is a very, very sensitive thing to even discuss.
गाय को रोटी खिला दो, कुत्ते को रोटी खिला दो, आज पिजन को दाना डाल दो.
Yes. So अगर किसी ने कुत्ते को रोटी खिला दी because it is a particular religious festival or because there's any particular reason. For example, during Shraddh, we have the Shraddh Paksh, which is going to Pitra Paksh, which is going to come very soon.
Yes.
Now at that time, it's पितरों की शांति के लिए, for our forefathers, we feed animals. गाय को देते हैं, कौवे को देते हैं. That in fact the first roti is taken out for the crows. So in those times, there are many people who even feed dogs. कि पितरों की आत्मा को शांति मिलेगी if you feed, the neglected animals, in the society. So I think that this is where feeding is concerned. I think that is going to be a sore point. But despite the civic bodies, designating a particular feeding place, people are not. It is very going to be difficult to kind of make people understand the risk and dangers that they are, creating for the other people, for their neighbors, for example. There may be one person in a colony who is, obeying the new Supreme Court guidelines and probably goes and feeds the dogs at the feeding point. But there may be another neighbor, another a person staying in the colony who, is not feeding on a regular basis, but on a particular day. For example, har Mangalwar ko, I'm going to feed the dogs, or I'm going to do it on a particular religious festival, on a religious occasion, or on the Shraddh. So what do you do? How do you educate the people? So as I said at the beginning, that look, we have to coexist. We cannot kind of ban animals. We cannot ban. Tomorrow there's going to be a big cry about cats also. How the cats are kind of, the number of cats which you see everywhere in colonies, and sometimes, they're dirtying the roads, and sometimes even pounce, pounce on people. So I think that where human beings are concerned, the entire Srishti, as they say, it depends upon harmonious coexistence of each and every person. We're all part of nature. Human beings, animals, ecological balance has to be maintained. So whenever that gets disturbed, these problems are going to be there. Of course, I think it's going to be a Herculean task. Supreme Court has, of course,
I personally feel that India requires a policy on the stray, because stray is not limited to dogs. You have a cattle issue in this country. You just need to go outside.
Yes. And very often you see, there are visuals on channels. Suddenly a cow is charging. A bull is charged, and I'm thrown a person off the scooter on the road, and in fact sometimes it has been even fatal. So it is not limited to dogs alone. The stray cats, there are stray cattle, In fact, in my colony, the moment you come out of the gate, every day, there are about 6 or 7 cows and 6 or 7 bulls standing there because some people in the society are feeding them. And sometimes they're dirtying the roads. People slip. People slip because of the mess which is there on the roads. So there's no monitoring at all.
I think people are missing a bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the dog problem has not happened on its own. Humans have contributed to the dog problem. I think we should take our responsibility first, whether you love a dog or hate a dog. It is caused by humans. That's number one. It's because of the excess food lying around, lack of waste disposal. That's number two. There have been areas, I don't want to get into it, because of security reasons in one of our North Indian states, that the dogs were fed so that the police would get alerted if there was a movement of a terrorist. So the dogs have multiplied in that state. That's another aspect of it, because it was part of the entire. It happened inadvertently. Now that city Srinagar is full of dogs. That was the social origin of the problem. So I think we must understand that this can only be resolved if there is a human will. And I don't think dogs can be vanished like that, because the dog pop, they don't give a birth to 1 or 2. It's a litter. It's a litter that is there. So I think the Supreme Court's policy order has to be welcome, but I think it has to be enforced in entire sincerity, because unless and until it is done that, it's only going to lead to more litigation, more work at police thana, and it would be less about managing the dog population. And on this note, I would thank all of you for joining me on this debate. So this was on point 1. The second on point is on how India has nailed the lies of Trump advisor Peter Navarro, but after a short break.
सर वाटरप्रूफिंग के लिए बेस्ट है,
हमेशा वाला क्यों नहीं?
वेंकी जी, एक छोटा सा गिफ्ट बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस देने के लिए।
मतलब प्रोडक्ट वारंटी?
वारंटी तो है ही, ये एक्स्ट्रा है। 1 साल में वाटरप्रूफिंग को कुछ भी हुआ तो वापस करके देंगे।
वापस करके देंगे?
वो भी फ्री। पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Go condoms?
It's over there.
क्या ये डिफरेंट साइजेस में आता है?
Actually sir, size matter नहीं करता।
तो फिर क्या मैटर करता है?
The hardness
of the condom,
of what's inside.
For the first time ever, presenting Hard Rock Gel.
अब फ्री हर स्कोर कॉन्डम्स के 10 पैक के साथ।
White House trade advisor and Trump confidant Peter Navarro has once again targeted India for its oil trade with Russia. Navarro alleged that India did not need Russian crude oil and that the imports were a refining, profiteering scheme and a laundromat for the Kremlin. Speaking to reporters, Navarro alleged that India had dramatically shifted its energy purchases since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in Feb 2022.
India bought virtually no Russian oil. Let me say it again. Prior to the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, India bought virtually no Russian oil. I mean, it was like 1% of their needs. So the argument somehow now, as the percentage has gone up to like 30 and 35%, that somehow they need Russian oil to cool their homes or cook or drive their cars is nonsense. India doesn't appear to want to recognize its role in the bloodshed. It simply doesn't. It's cozying up to Xi Jinping. Is what it's doing. It's not act. And by the way, I wrote that article in the FT just to deal with the propaganda of the Indian government to make people want to feel sorry for them. Oh, they need the oil. They don't need the oil. It's a refining profiteering scheme. It's a laundromat for the Kremlin.
This is not the first time Navarro has made such a bizarre allegation. Earlier in the article for Financial Times, Navarro had called on India to stop buying Russian crude oil. New Delhi has immediately called out Navarro's litany of lies against India. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said the US itself had asked New Delhi to help stabilize global energy markets by buying Russian oil. Jaishankar said he was perplexed by the US tariff stand on India.
Well, I don't want to comment on a person, but let me comment on the subject. We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian oil. That is China. We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian LNG. I'm not sure, but I think that is the European Union. We are not the country which has the biggest trade surge with Russia after 2022. I think there are some countries to the south. We are a country where actually the Americans said for the last few years that we should do everything to stabilize the world energy markets, including buying oil from Russia. Incidentally, we also buy oil from America, and that amount has been increasing. So, quite honestly, we are very perplexed at the logic of the argument that you had referred to.
As Jaishankar pointed out, India isn't the biggest purchaser of Russian oil. It is China. Also, the biggest buyer of Russia's LNG is European Union. Now, let's look at some numbers. LNG, the share of EU is 51%. China, 21%. Japan, it is 18%. This is LNG. Let's take a quick look at the crude oil. China, 47%. India, 38%. EU, 6%. Turkey is 6%. Now, pipeline gas, all from Russia. EU 37%, China 30%, Turkey 27%. So this is what EU, China, Turkey and Americans, and I'll show you, are trading with Russians. Earlier, MEA spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal said targeting India is unjustified and unreasonable. He called out the nations criticizing India as Russia's biggest business partners.